And that is the last piece of this case I needed to pull apart. All for that little piston, which just would not come out. We got some oil pump piston pullers, and I don't know if it's an error in the pistons or the tools, but you can see this is dark and shiny, so I actually had to grind this down. What do you want from a $20 tool made in China that probably isn't originally designed for this application? I don't know what to tell you, other than minor clearancing might be needed. I tried magnets and blowing air and everything I could, short of getting this tool to get this piston out of this engine case, to no avail. You get the right tool, you make it work, the piston's out, and here we are. With that, I still have to pull apart our connecting rods, and I think that's about it. I did have some damage on this drive gear right here. When I was pulling out the distributor drive pinion, this brass gear took a little damage, so I will pull these guys off, replace this brass gear. We have all the parts now, including stainless steel windage style pushrod tubes. We've got some velocity stack filters, billet velocity stacks. My new bearings, told you, new bearings. JayCee Powerflow tapered ring compressor. We have some stage 3 cylinder heads, new pistons and cylinders. So this is going to be a little bit bigger engine than last time. Oh, new fan shroud. Back at it again, finishing up the teardown, some of the cleanup, some of the re-prep work to get our 2234 rebuilt into a 2332. I'm going to start tearing down all the connecting rods, then we're going to get everything cleaned up, and we're going to get our short block put back together, hopefully today. Let's see how that goes. All of my connecting rods, they're all numbered, so I know what connecting rod came off of which journal and where it's going to go once I put in some new rod bearings. This is the wear, if you want to call it that, on our rod bearings. I'm not certain what any of this discoloration in here is from. Possibly from being over-revved, maybe? I don't know. I'm not an engine builder, and I'm just doing this because I can put stuff together sometimes. And sometimes it stays together. Sometimes the fan blows up, or sometimes somebody drops a nut inside your cylinder. You know, whatever. So just having fun. No worse for the wear at all. Snap ring. Let's get that guy out of here. Here we go. I don't like pulling those things off. That's such a pain. But we got it. Now, pull these guys off. Now you can see the damage I was talking about on our brass timing gear. Is it the end of the world? No, but we can replace it. Alright, now that I've got the crank all disassembled, I'm going to throw this in the parts washer and got some hardware, some bits and some bobs and some pieces and some parts. Reset our sump plate studs, get those guys locked in place. Nothing particularly fancy about this, but I do like doing it. Bring you guys in for a closer look here. Now again, we are running a deep sump, so once these things are held on with our deep sump hardware and everything else, there's no reason that these guys should ever come out. But in that, making certain that these studs won't pull out later on down in the road is really helpful. So that's why I put nuts on the inside. Spring washer, nut, spring washer, nut. Now I've got to drop in our oil pickup tube. Now this is just the standard extension tubes that come with the deep sump kits. However, as opposed to clamping it in place, I've actually welded it in place and pressure tested this. Now I'm going to drop this guy in place. I am going to put a little bit of a thread locker around the inside of this as I slide it in, just to make certain that we don't have any seeps or leaks or anything else in that. And then I can go ahead and put on this top nut up here. And this is just going to help seal the pickup tube to the case so that we don't have any cavitation. Air and oil getting sucked into this tube, that will cause cavitation, that can cause leaking or foaming on the oil. Just nothing good. So a little bit of thread locker around the outside edge. That'll just go in there and seal up the pickup tube to the case. And now we have extended pickup tube, and we can already see all that Loctite. It's kind of just going through and sealing that edge at the case. Once that cures, that will be airtight, just like our extended pickup tube. Over there, I've got The gear's warming up for our crank. I've got our crank cleaned up here. While that's warming up, I'm going to go through and clean up our connecting rods, test fit rod bearings, test fit those on our crank, make sure everything is good to go there. I don't wear that glove. It lasted all of 30 seconds. Alright, speaking of gloves, we got this. So that's gears in. We do have our 2 notches in place. And just like that, that gear's locked in. It goes that quickly. Put our gear spacer in. Like that. Let's get our grass gear. There we go. New timing gear in place now. Alright, well, I'm going to finish pulling these rods apart, getting those clean. New snap ring for our timing gear set. Bearing. Offset pin goes towards the flywheel, and since this is the bottom of the crank, points down. Slinger, keyway. Ah, dagnabbit. I forgot to pull up the torque specs for these connecting rods. But in the meantime, in between time, I can get these guys out. If nothing else, just get them test fit, make certain that everything is happy, hunky-dory. 073 is for number 4, and we'll be facing this way. Tangs are always at the bottom, matching up with our numbers. Numbers, tangs, tangs, numbers. Let's put some assembly lube down our rod bolts. It just helps these get torqued to the correct specs. Feels good. Just leave that set until we actually get the torque specs. Connecting rod 002. 002 is for cylinder number 2. Perfecto, that's going to point that way. And keep in mind, on all these connecting rods, we didn't actually have to do any work to these to balance them. These were already all balanced. Every single end weight was the same. Every single overall weight was the same. So these are completely balanced and matched set of connecting rods, all within 1 gram. I want to say, I can't remember if it was one of the connecting rods was off, or 2 of the connecting rods were off 1 gram each, or if it was one of the pistons that happened to be off 1 gram each. But either way, we balanced those 2 offset sides at number 2 and 4, and the other ones went to 1 and 3. So these are all balanced. So is our crank, so is our flywheel. This was balanced by DPR, Jose. You can see this is just machined off just a little bit right there, a little bit right there. All right, 26 foot-pounds is our last step. That could have been much worse. Woo-wee, Bobby. Make sure that I still have bottom side of the crank. Numbers, 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 numbers. Check, 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 check. Good to go. Good to go. Good to go. All right. Woo! Crank is ready to go in the case. However, our case needs to be finished cleaning up. Out of the parts washer. So we've got all 4 lifters on this side, back where they started. Number 3, 4, flywheel side, etc. I had this cardboard box cut with all the positions of the bearings, lifters, cam bearings, etc., etc. So I know where every single piece came out of. That way when it goes back in, it goes back in the exact same spot. If I was to reuse it, these cam bearings, there's virtually no wear on these guys. Even though I do have a new set right here somewhere, I'm not going to bother. These bearings look perfect. I see nothing on these bearings to even indicate that they were hardly even run. So we're just going to put those guys back in, after cleaning them, of course. All right, so we've got 2 washers on here. This drops through our distributor hole. 2 washers in place, sits on that shelf, and that spins in there. Now, really important here is lining up this whichever way you want your distributor lined up. Sometimes they line them up this way, sometimes they line up this way. It just all comes down to personal preference. However, what I like to do is use whichever distributor you're going to be using. That sucks. I have no idea where those came out of. The wear, look at the wear. Look at the wear, look at the wear. All right, one thing at a time. Let's put some lifter clips in those. To make certain that doesn't happen again. I want number 1 pointing to number 1. So I can put our distributor in, and I know that it was already timed from the last time we ran this, but anyway, at this point I could just go through and rotate the body to wherever I want the body to hang out, still spinning there. So wherever the crankshaft drops in now, when we drop it in, it's going to be set at number 1 top dead center. Now let's take a look inside and see that, well, essentially the D shaft right there, if you can see, is offset parallel in line with the K6 way. So that's where we want our distributor. Drive here. Now I gotta clean these lifters again. Based on what I can remember, this was our number 3 exhaust. This is our number 3 intake. So what I'm going with, or number 4 rather, but yeah. I got my engine backwards, so now I'm backwards. All right, drop our camshaft in, crank in. I mean, half a dozen really doesn't matter at this point. Distributor drives in, and drop our crank in and our cam in. Crank's here, ready to go. Spin this guy around here. Number 3 is that way, number 1's this way. Bottom of the crank's here, bottom of the case is here, so this should go straight from here, straight in there. So I can give you guys a little shot of assembly lubes on these mains, just to give it some extra loving. And there we go. Ow, that was only my finger. There we go. That feels golden. Let's double check that front bearing. That one's good. All right, now we'll drop our camshaft in once I clean it. Where's the cam at? There we are. Let's clean our cam up. This is that happy little dance of making sure our distributor drive gear doesn't fall out, making sure our crank doesn't fall out. You know what? Let's just put our distributor in for the moment. Just to make sure that gear don't go dropping out. Now what we're looking for here is to drop this camshaft in with that big mark in between those teeth right there. And as we run our crank around, everything's nice and smoothie buttery like. Right back in between there again. Number 1, top dead center. back where we started. Cam's all happy. So at this point, this side of the engine case is ready to go. Now we got to prep the other side. Let's get rid of you for the moment. Gasket cinch and lifter clips. And hopefully I have my torque spec sheet around here somewhere. Alright. No washer. Alright. Cam molds are the first to get tightened. All right, we're going to get these guys torqued to 14 foot-pounds and make sure that our crank rotates. I'm also going to throw a couple across this front. Keeping pressure on that case. Not torqued, just snug. 14 foot-pounds. 14 foot-pounds. We're golden. I'm going to go 15, 20, 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15, 20, 24. But first I got to get another glove on and put some sealants on those nuts. Why? Because that's what Volkswagen did. What do I know? Foot-pounds. No problem. 20 foot-pounds. 24 foot-pounds. All right, back down to 14, and we'll get all the rest of the bolts around the side of the case. Still smooth like butter. So I'll tighten that one to our oil pump again. Speaking of oil pumps, let's get that ready. We've got some fanciness to do there. We've got this guy, and this guy, and this guy. This guy goes there, this guy goes there, that guy goes there, like that apparently. Hopefully that is compatible with this oil pump. Ooh, back here. What happened here? And just found some interesting stuff in there. That oil pump happened to pick up something right there and right there. So that was not happy. Could have been worse. Yeah, that was that got chewed up and chunked into that oil pump. So I'm gonna go see if I have another heavy duty full flow oil pump. I will return. So I've got a new pump to replace our other one. My guess is that when the nut went through the top of that piston, that piece of piston went into the engine, got sucked up into the oil pump. Yeah, I bet you that's what happened, and that's what was in the oil pump, the old one. The new one doesn't have that problem. Before we do anything, make sure that everything fits. Check, check. All right, make sure that your hole for your long gear sits at the top so it lines up with the center of the cam. Those little dots, all they tell you is that this side is out. Doesn't matter if they line up or not, just matters that they are pointing out. And the front cover just gets the thinnest coat of gasket seal. Foot-pounds. I do have an AN fitting for that. I mean, we're gonna make a nice engine, might as well make a nice engine, right? Alright, so that's that. Fuel pump block off. We'll take that off, take those off, just for safe measure. Whatever. Let's do, where did my Torqueys go? Mr. Torquey, where did you go? Dude, really? Pretty big tool just up and disappeared. Oftentimes I find if I sit down, the solution presents itself. All right, put some pistons in place. Got a little bugger there and there. We're just about there. Come on. There we go. Take. Not bad for a day's work. From a pile of parts, some good, some bad, to a complete short block that spins over buttery smooth. Versus last time, you can see that we've got some AN fittings. These are XRP AN fittings for our oil system. I figured since our Powerflow system through JayCee is already set up for AN fittings, I figure I'd do the same with our case fittings. This time around, we're going to go ahead and put our deep sump in. On the bottom side of things, you can see our extended pickup there. On the back side, I'll get our flywheel seal and our flywheel in place. With that, our short block is ready for version 2. Yeah, because I guess we have version 1, 1.5, 1 3/4 almost last time. I think the biggest surprise obviously would have been that piece of metal that was stuck inside the oil pump. Again, probably from the hole in the piston. That piece of metal went down into our oil pump and stuck in the oil pump. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but in the meantime, I'm Sam, this is JBugs.com. Thanks for watching, and life's full of good people. If you can't find one, be one. Later, guys.